Hey guys, and welcome to another melee focused episode of Let's Max Warframe. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at the brand new melee that suits Valkyr right down to the ground, and that is the Venka Prime. Now the claw weapons, they're a class that hasn't really had a huge amount in them. In fact, we've only had the Venka and the Ripcast before the Prime came along, yet we have 3 different stances for those two. Now 3 weapons, so go figure. Drop locations can be found in the description below, since they do have a habit of shifting around when things get vaulted. But with the Venka Prime, naturally it's going to come top of its class. But what do its stats look like? Well, with 55 base damage is 18 more than the original Venka. The majority of that damage comes in as slash of 41.25, 11 as puncture, 2.75 as impact. Status chance of 15%, I mean it's not the best, however, with how quickly this thing builds up a combo, a status build is kind of a viable option. Couple that with a fast attack speed of 1.05 and a critical chance of a fantastic 25% and 250% critical damage multiplier, you have the ability to turn your Warframe into a glorified blender with a blood rush body count build and berserker. And that is made even more powerful by the Venka Prime special feature, which is that it has a vastly better combo counter. This is something that if you aren't paying attention you could very easily miss it, and that is instead of the standard increase of 0.5 times damage per increase, so 1.5 2 times 2.5 times, you get 0.75 times more damage increase, 1.75, 2.5, 3.25 and then 4. This has a knock-on effect of improving the efficiency of both Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds, meaning that with the Venka Prime you are hitting red crits as little as 15 hits. And with its attack speed, that is effectively almost instantly. In fact, there's only 2 real downsides to the Venka Prime, and that is the short range on the weapon means you really need to get seriously close and to close that gap before you're able to land the hits. And while the weapon has an incredible ground finisher, it's got a very short range on the ground slam, so you can pretty easily miss those enemies if you're trying to do the ground slam and then they just move away. But those are the only things I can think bad of to say about these. The stance that you go for is going to be completely personal preference. I've changed my mind about which one I like several times now. For me, it's between Malicious Raptor and Vermilion Storm. I kind of dislike Fall Riders personally. I find the stance kind of clunky, although the knockdown is very nice for the crazy ground finishes. But the thing I like about the 2 other stances is that Vermilion is amazing for building up a combo. Lots of spins, multi-hits, and even a backflip, which is amazing for dealing with shield drones. The bane of any short-range melee weapon. However, I settled on using Malicious Raptor in the end. A ground slam into a ground finisher into the right-click hold combo of Avenging Thrash, that has a finisher built into it, then you throw the enemy to the ground again for you to do another ground finisher. That is one hell of a combo, and one that can deal with the toughest enemies with ease. Now with that decided, how did I decide to build the weapons? I decided to add one former, so we ended up with 2 Vs and a dash on here, and then I ended up with 2 different builds. First build's a pretty traditional crit build, Prime Pressure Point, Blood Rush, and I went with Drifting Contact. The status chance that I said earlier is pretty misleading, so the extra little bit of status, especially on a slash based weapon, is something that I think is totally worth it. And you only lose 2 seconds of combo time to do it. You could go with body count if you don't like Drifting Contact on here, however. And then we got crit damage with Orc and Shatter, Berserker for attack speed, 2 90% elementals of your choice, and either a max rank or an unranked life strike. More often than not I go with max rank. I feel it scales better into higher levels, plus you can channel once and have full HP, rather than channeling for multiple hits to get your health back. It's a very good build that can deal with anything that has been thrown at it so far. Second build is one that I've been experimenting with though. I've not 100% decided whether I like it yet, however I thought I'd put it on here for you guys to see. The majority of the mods are exactly the same as the first build. However, we have sacrificed 2 90% elementals and a life strike for 2 dual stat elementals. We've got gas in this case for the gas proc, and then Weeping Wounds. We end up with a 39% status at base, and with a regular weapon that would mean we hit 100% status at around the 3.5 times multiplier mark, which with the Venka Prime and its increased multiplier means you're going to be hitting 100% status really pretty quickly. This is a build that I am still in the process of testing, like I say. Give it a go. I think it works with Zero Former, so it might be worth giving a shot, just seeing what you think. So, what do I think of the Venka Prime? Do I think it's worth it? Worth the time and the effort to farm these things? The answer to that is pretty simple. Hell, yes it is. These things are incredible. One of the main criticisms I've had in Warframe is that these close range weapons like the claws, like the daggers, they don't really reward you properly for closing the gap and for getting up into the enemy's ugly mug. The heavy weapons do more damage, are almost as fast for the most part, when you take stances and things into account, and have more range than the close range melee weapons. And as such, these sort of close shave style weapons really just get outperformed all the time. However, then you have the Venka Prime, which for me is the first of these close range melees to feel really, really rewarding, and to feel that you're actually getting what you deserve for closing that gap. It's got an incredible range of stances where none of them really stand out as the obvious choice to go for, so there's room for personal preference when it comes to that. 2 stances for utility and damage, and 1 with some crazy combo building potential. I wish all melee classes like the claws in that regard, although I find it very funny that a class with 2, now 3 weapons in it has 3 stances, but the machetes that has 5 in there and they still only have 1 stance. Honestly though, I have been amazed by the Venka Prime, by the way it looks and how fluid the stances are. It's been a really good time trying to figure out the build, playing around with these things, getting footage. Honestly not sure, it's probably not going to replace my Atarax personally, but those of you that like to get up close and personal with the enemies while you dice them into little pieces, you're going to get a tremendous amount of bang for your buck with these ones. So, are you likely to pick these up and use them? What's your favourite melee weapon at the moment? Mine is forever changing, but it's either the Atarax or the Akenbrunt, maybe even the Legion, but I would love to hear what yours are in the comments below. As always though, feel free to smash that like button, to sub if you like my content, and I shall see you in the next video.